Welcome back to Grimverse History, where we uncover the strange and forgotten sides of history. Tonight, we enter a world where punishment wasn't chaos, it was calculation. This is the truth behind what happened to wives accused of infidelity in medieval Europe. A truth far darker than any old folktale or moral story ever dared to admit. Everyone thinks a cheating wife in medieval Europe was simply scolded, divorced, or forgiven. But the truth is far darker. A single accusation, sometimes whispered by a jealous neighbor, could turn a woman's life into a public spectacle of humiliation. Her head shaved, her clothes torn, her body paraded on a cart as the entire village watched and shouted. And here's the part almost no one expects. The punishment wasn't designed to correct her behavior, but to warn every other woman what would happen if she ever stepped outside the lines drawn for her. You're standing in a quiet medieval courtyard, the ground cold beneath your feet. Moonlight settles on the stone path as a distant bell fades into the night. You push open a heavy wooden door. Cold air brushes your skin. The walls smell of damp stone and extinguished candles. Somewhere deeper inside, iron faintly clinks. As if something just shifted. Take a deep breath. Let the noise of your day fall away. You're safe here, and if quiet, unsettling history is where you find comfort, feel free to gently tap, like, or subscribe to join our midnight archive. Dim the lights. Let the hum of your fan become your heartbeat. Slow your thoughts. Let the darkness wrap around you. Because tonight, we don't just observe history, we step into it. It's the year 1348. A single whisper in a narrow street is enough to destroy a woman forever. A punishment system, built with intent, not impulse. You stand in the quiet dark, listening to the way old stones breathe. The medieval world often feels wild in our imagination. Pitchforks, rage, sudden violence. But that isn't how punishment usually worked. Not here, not then. Most of the cruelty is organized, measured, filed somewhere between a church ledger and the town's tax list. A woman accused of infidelity doesn't face a mob acting on impulse. She faces a system acting on routine, a system that wakes up in the morning, sharpens its quills, and continues as if nothing unusual is happening, because to them, nothing is. You walk past the wooden railing, fingertips grazing its surface. The grain is smooth in some places, splintered in others. The same way medieval justice splits calm procedure from quiet brutality. Officials review the accusation first. Priests nod. Neighbors whisper. Somewhere, a clerk copies her name into a book as though preparing a recipe. The parchment never shakes in his hands. His ink never blotches. It's just another Tuesday. The unsettling part lies here. Nobody involved thinks of themselves as cruel. They believe they are doing the right thing, keeping order, protecting souls, preserving God's structure. It is astonishing how much harm people cause when they think heaven approves. The room grows a little colder when you understand that. Even the rituals of humiliation, the shaving, the parading, the shouting, are not inventions of angry crowds. They come straight from codes, councils, and sermons, written down, revised, perfected over generations. Imagine designing torment the way someone else designs a staircase, functional, durable, used by everyone. A page rustles somewhere behind you. You don't turn around. Part of you already understands what's written there. Instructions, measurements, where to stand, how fast to walk, how loudly to announce a woman's shame so it reaches every ear on the street. Nothing is left to improvisation. Improvisation would be too human. A priest recites a prayer while a constable ties the ropes. Their voices overlap. One for salvation, one for procedure. Neither questions why the punishment doesn't match the crime. They simply move through the steps the way a clock moves through minutes. Steady, obedient, unaware of what its hands imply. The cruelty hides in that calmness. Cruelty always enjoys a quiet room. You take one breath, slow, and feel it settle in your chest. Every society builds machines. This one builds machines for shame. Machines that never squeak, never complain, and never stop. The candle beside you flickers once, then again. You wait for the third flicker, but it doesn't come. That's medieval justice for you. Predictable until the moment it isn't. And the door to the next truth waits just a few steps away. A woman's body as property, and infidelity as a crime of ownership. A faint draft slips through the corridor as you move forward. It carries the smell of cold iron and old dust, the kind that settles only in places where decisions are made without hesitation. Here, a woman's body is not her own, not in the eyes that judge her, not in the laws that name her, not in the world built around control, disguised as morality. Medieval law writes it plainly, almost casually. The wife belongs to the husband. Her fidelity exists to protect his bloodline, his honor, his estate, and his social face. If she strays, she does not merely betray him. She damages his property. The logic is cold, but it doesn't flinch. You stand near a table stacked with parchments. The ink on them darkens with age, but the words stay sharp. A woman is listed beneath livestock. Another is recorded beside land parcels. Not names, just assets shifting from one man to another. You lift a corner of one page. It feels lighter than it should. Maybe that's the weight society gave her. And the strangest part is how normal this feels to the people living inside that world. Everyone agrees because agreeing keeps life predictable. Predictability always wins. You hear quiet footsteps echoing in the hall. A constable walks past, keys rattling at his belt. He does not look at you. He does not need to. He knows the system works exactly as intended, and intention is everything. A society always reveals its values through what it protects. Here, it protects male certainty at the cost of female existence. And so, when a woman is accused of infidelity, fear spreads, not because her heart wandered, but because her womb might. Lineage is fragile, inheritance is dangerous. Men build their worlds on names, and names depend on purity, or at least the illusion of it. A woman's private life becomes a threat to public order, which is the kind of irony only history writes with a straight face. You rest your hand on the stone wall. It feels cold, but steady. The same steadiness that allowed an entire culture to treat women as extensions of another person's will. Not partners, not individuals, just conditions in a contract. Somewhere above you, a church bell rings once, a reminder that even faith stood firmly on the side of ownership. The sound fades slowly, swallowed by the thick walls. When it finally disappears, one thought lingers like a thin thread of smoke. Property never wins, but it always pays. Public shame as a weapon of psychological ruin. A faint breeze meets you as you step into the next passage. It carries the sour smell of tallow smoke and something else. The lingering breath of a crowd long gone. Public punishments always leave traces, not blood, not screams, just a strange stillness, as though the air remembers what people try to forget. Medieval Europe perfects the art of humiliation, quietly, efficiently, with an almost theatrical confidence. What happens to an accused wife is not spontaneous rage. It is choreography. A procession rehearsed so many times, it becomes its own kind of ceremony. You walk toward a narrow archway. The stones beneath your feet feel worn smooth, the way old habits wear down the people following them. This is where the cart rolls out. The cart that carries a woman through her own village, stripped of dignity, stripped of privacy, stripped of the right to lift her head. Carting, they call it. A soft word for something sharp. She stands on wooden planks while neighbors gather at their doorways. Their eyes do most of the work. Their voices do the rest. They throw mud, rotting vegetables, sometimes worse. The goal isn't punishment, it's performance. A warning played live for every other woman watching from behind cracked shutters. You stop beside an iron ring embedded in the wall. It looks harmless until you imagine what it holds. Hands tied, clothes torn, hair hacked off in uneven patches as the crowd murmurs its approval. Humiliation isn't a side effect here. It's the whole point. You inhale slowly. The air tastes metallic, like old coins pressed against your tongue. That's the flavor of public justice in a world that believes shame fixes everything. Shame is cheaper than prisons, cleaner than blood, and far easier to parade. The procession moves through the village at a pace set by law. Not too fast, not too slow, just enough time for every face to memorize her disgrace. Dry humor finds its way here. Nothing travels faster than gossip, except a woman tied to a cart. The crowd learns quickly. Fear is a strict teacher with perfect attendance. You reach for the rough edge of the cart's frame. The wood flakes under your touch. Countless hands have slapped it, pushed it, steadied it. Punishment becomes a communal event. Humiliation works because it's cheap, silent, and socially endorsed. A weapon that requires no soldier, just witnesses. A dog barks somewhere outside, quick and sharp. The sound echoes, then drops into silence. And in that silence, one truth settles quietly at your feet. A crowd never needs to raise a blade to leave a scar. Sacred torments and the marks that never fade. A colder draft slips around your ankles as you step deeper inside. The light dims, the air thickens. Some places hold a quiet that feels heavier than noise. This is one of them. Here, punishment isn't just public, it's holy, or it pretends to be. Medieval Europe loves a punishment that looks like a prayer, but feels like a verdict carved into flesh. You pause beside a stone basin. Its surface is chipped. The water inside isn't water at all, just a thin layer of memory. This is where trial by cold water begins. A woman is tied with rope, lowered in, and watched. If she sinks, she is innocent. If she floats, she is guilty. Somehow both outcomes terrify everyone involved, especially her. Faith, here, is a coin toss no one wants to win. You reach out and touch the rim of the basin. It's icy, the kind of cold that bites straight through skin. The church claims God will decide her fate. The water, however, usually decides it first. Hot iron rests on a nearby table, silent, perfectly still. Its handle curves like it knows a secret. Trial by hot iron, they call it. A test where a woman must carry a burning weight a few paces to prove her purity. If her wounds heal clean, she is innocent. If they fester, she is condemned. Healing becomes a legal argument. Medicine becomes theology. Her skin becomes the courtroom. You smell the faint trace of ash, long settled into the cracks of the stone floor. Pain leaves marks, but belief leaves deeper ones. Then there are punishments that never pretend to be holy. Cutting off the nose or ears, branding the cheek with hot metal, marking the face so that every stranger becomes a judge. No trial, no redemption, just a permanent reminder she can't hide from. Society loves a punishment that travels with the victim. It saves them the trouble of remembering. You take a step back as shadows tighten along the walls. In this room, guilt is irrelevant, survival is inconsistent, and fairness is absent altogether. Every punishment leaves a trace. On her body, on her name, on the way people look at her long after she's gone. Some marks fade. These do not. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the cold settle against your skin. The medieval world believes a scar can solve a problem, or at least remind others not to cause one. When you open your eyes again, one truth waits in the dim light. Some sentences end, but some scars keep talking. A justice built on absolute gender inequality. You step into a narrower hallway. The air here feels different, warmer, but somehow emptier, like a room that once held too many confessions and not enough truth. Your footsteps echo softly as if the stones already know what comes next. This is the part people rarely like to admit. Punishment in medieval Europe isn't blind. It sees gender with perfect clarity, and it chooses sides long before anyone stands accused. A married man caught in adultery usually pays a fine. Sometimes he says a prayer. Sometimes he nods politely to the priest and promises not to do it again. Most days, he walks home afterward, humming, already thinking about dinner. Justice treats him like a momentary inconvenience, a minor accounting error. You pause near a worn wooden bench. The surface is carved with initials, some deep, some faint, all anonymous. It looks like a place where someone once waited to hear a verdict they already knew. A woman, perhaps. Her fate never depends on mood or mercy, only on expectation. Expectation is a sharper blade than punishment. For her, infidelity is treason, a structure men built, maintained, and guarded with quiet discipline. So her sentencing is not a pause in her life. It is the end of the version of her the world tolerates. You touch the back of the bench. It's smooth from countless hands. Maybe from the hands of people who never stood a chance in the first place. Fairness doesn't sit here, only outcomes. Men walk away. Women lose everything. Marriage, home, name, community. Sometimes life itself. The imbalance is so complete, it barely registers as imbalance. When a rule holds for centuries, it starts to feel like nature. Nature is the most obedient servant of power. A quiet creak comes from the far corner of the hallway. You turn your head, but nothing moves. Silence always returns faster in places built on certainty. What lingers is the way everyone participates in the inequality. Even other women, afraid of becoming the next example. Fear builds quicker than fairness. It builds quieter too. You take a slow breath, letting it settle deep in your chest. Some worlds operate on laws. This one operates on hierarchy, and hierarchy has no interest in mercy when mercy disrupts the order of things. A candle burns low on the wall, its flame trembling once in the draft. It looks tired, as if it has seen too much and learned too little. The flame dims, steadies, then holds, and in that thin slice of light, a truth stands completely still. Balance was never the goal. Slow down now. Let the breath settle. Let the room grow quiet again. The echoes of stone corridors drift away one by one. Somewhere in your mind, a wooden cart creaks softly. A church bell hangs in the air, its last note fading like a thin thread of smoke. Even the cold touch of iron seems to loosen its grip, sinking back into the shadows where it belongs. You sit here with me, in the gentler present. The old world closes behind us, the way a heavy door sighs shut after being open too long. You can almost feel the dust settle, as if time itself is folding the pages back into place. Nothing chases you now. Nothing lingers except the quiet. Take one more slow breath. Let it soothe the corners of your thoughts. And if journeys like this help you drift into a deeper kind of calm, you're welcome to leave a like, share this quiet path with a friend, or join the channel so we can keep wandering through forgotten worlds together. Only if it feels right. Only if your night has room for one more whisper. The light dims just a little, the story softens, and the darkness around you grows warm instead of cold. Goodbye, and we will meet again.